Hi, welcome to What's Cooking with Rochelle, and today we are going to make pumpkin pie. We're making a pretty traditional pumpkin pie today, but we're going to start off by making the crust. So in my bowl here, I am going to have because I wanted to show you, the pan that I'm using is a little deeper. If you have a fluted pan, that's what this thing's called, and it's a little deeper, you're going to want to use about 1.5 for the amount you would normally use for one pie crust. So one pie crust is normally 1 cup of flour, so I have about 1.5 cups of flour here. And to that, we are going to add 9 tablespoons of shortening. And we're going to add cold water. I have 3 tablespoons of water in the refrigerator, which I'm going to go grab. Cold water just works better. And the fun thing about making pie crusts is you get to get your hands dirty. So just go ahead and get your hand in there. And I try to keep one clean and one dirty. If you need a little more flour or you need a little more water, just adjust. And I'll show you what I mean if we have any issues. Because it could take another tablespoon of water, perhaps. So you can see it's starting to come together. It's kind of like a rough rag here. And I don't think we're going to need any more. You're going to make it into a ball. So you can see when you buy the pie crust at the store, which of course you could do if you wanted to do this faster, but you saw how quickly that all came together. So as long as you have the ingredients on hand, it's pretty easy. So voila, we have pie crust. Now I've got a little more flour setting right here, and what we're going to do with that is sprinkle it here on my board. Why I'm doing this is just to make it a little bit more compact. Okay. And the reason we're putting the flour down would be to make it easier to roll. And I'm going to get out my pie sheet. Now I could just roll on my counter, but this is going to make it easier for us to get the pie off of here and into there. So just generously flour the bottom. Move that for now. Take your ball. And the nice thing about this one is if you have a sheet like this, it tells you how big. So this is a 9-inch pan, and we know we have about a 3-inch lip. So I need to make this pie crust at least 12 inches to fit. So we put it in the center. And we're going to sprinkle a little more on top. And you're simply just going to gently roll it out into a circle. Now what I like to do when I get it about like this is I pick it up and reflour it. Again, this makes it so it doesn't stick and it's super easy. Now because we made our pie crust amount bigger, we might have a little bit of extra, which is okay because if we do, we're going to do maybe a little decoration stuff on the edge of the pie crust. So you can see by my sheet that I'm already big enough, but we want the pie crust pretty thin. Okay, so we've got it rolled out probably about enough, but we're checking to see if it's thin enough. A thin pie crust will give you a really flaky, crispy, nice crust. And the way you can tell is if you can see this through your crust, then you know it's thin enough. So as you can see, I'm just starting to see it, but it's not quite there. So we're gonna make it just a little bit thinner. And you can see it doesn't have to be exact on the edges or anything like that. Now I can see all of my lines through the crust on the sheet that I'm using. So just a little tip for you. Now, to get it off of here and into here is not hard, guys. You simply take your rolling pin, you take the edge of your mat, and you lift it up just like that. Once you get it started, you just gently roll, okay, till it's at the end. You take your pie pan, and it doesn't take any skill, guys. You take it to the edge, just release it, and just roll it back. See how easy? Okay, now it has to go down, right? So just gently pick it up and give it a little bit of release so that it'll fall to the bottom. Okay? Now that we've got it in the pan, all we are simply going to do is pinch the top, and then I'm going to show you how to make decorative stuff because we do have extra. So I use the old-fashioned thumb method. You simply put your thumb and your finger together like that and work your way around the pan. And what this does is it seals the edge. It makes it a little bit decorative, and it'll make it easy to remove the extra. As you can see, it will simply just fall right off. Now, if you wanted to clean it up and make it really neat, you could use a knife, but not really necessary. Okay, so we got our pie shell done. Now we've got this extra. So I am going to re-roll it just to make it a little prettier. And then you can decide if you want to do a shape. A lot of the times with this extra dough, what I'll do is I'll make what I call pie dough rolls for my kids, which they love. It's just this little bit of extra dough. You roll it out, put some butter on it that's softened, and a little bit of cinnamon and sugar. Roll it up, and voila. Okay, so we've got the extra dough rolled out. You could obviously use a shape cutter if you have a little shape cutter. I'm just going to make a couple of leaves. I'm going to show you how easy. So we're just going to make a little half circle, just like that, and put a crease down the middle. Again, this is over and above what you have to do. This is just a little fun stuff. Okay. We'll make like 6 of these. How's about that? See how easy it comes together and looks like a leaf? Put those two together. And we'll decorate a couple more. Okay, so now you can see I've got all 3. I did 3. You could do whatever, whatever design you want to do. If you don't want to do any design, you could throw the extra dough away, or like I said, you could make the pie dough rolls really easy. So now we have our crust done. I'm going to go ahead and clear all this off, get everything ready to make the filling, the fun part. Okay, so now we have everything out to make the filling for the pie. If you've never made your own pumpkin pie, they're amazing when they're hot right out of the oven. Love that. I know you're supposed to let them sit and cool, but okay, so the first thing you need is 3 eggs. So we're going to crack 3 eggs in our bowl. And I'm doing this the lazy man way. You don't need a mixer to make pumpkin pie filling, but I'm doing it this way. So you're just going to crack the whole egg. You're using the whole egg, so you're just removing the shell on 3 of them. Then we're going to add a whole bunch of other ingredients, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mix the eggs with brown sugar. You can use light brown sugar, dark brown sugar. You can even use white sugar if you don't have brown sugar. It just adds a little different taste. I'm using dark brown sugar here today. And I have about a cup of brown sugar there. So we're going to go ahead and put this in. And we're going to let it beat for just a minute to make it creamy and blended. Okay, so we can see that that's nice and light and fluffy now. It's definitely blended together. If you chose to use white sugar instead of brown sugar, it's going to be a little lighter in color, that's all. Okay, so to this, we are going to add all of our spices and pumpkin, and then we're going to slowly add the milk. So we have a ginger. I have a half a teaspoon of ginger. I have nutmeg. I have a half a teaspoon of nutmeg as well. I have 1/8 of a teaspoon of cloves. They're a little spicier, that's why. We have a tablespoon, or excuse me, not a tablespoon, a teaspoon and a half of cinnamon. And then I have a half a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of cornstarch. The cornstarch is just going to make it a little more firm and thick. If you didn't have cornstarch, no big deal. You can make this recipe without it. So we're going to add to that 2 cups, just a little over 2 cups of pumpkin. All right, got that. And we're going to put this back on the mixer just to blend it together. This is how easy pumpkin pie is, guys. Just has to combine, doesn't have to really mix very long. As soon as you see that it's all mixed together, which is just about there, what we're going to do now is we're going to add 12 ounces of evaporated milk. If you don't have evaporated milk, you could use whole milk, half and half, or heavy cream, depending on how rich you want it. The evaporated milk I'm using is whole evaporated milk, okay? All right, so literally that is it, pumpkin pie. So we're gonna turn that off and take our shell and we're just gonna pour it in there. Now, I do have my oven preheated to 425 degrees. And we're gonna cook it at that temperature for about 15 minutes, and then we're gonna turn it down to 350 or 325 and cover the crust so it doesn't burn. But we have one other little tip that I'm going to give to you guys. Yummy, yummy. You see how wiggly it is, right? So if you wanted to, you could literally put the pan in the oven when you finish pouring it in, and then you don't have to worry about being a magician taking it over and not spilling it. What I'm gonna do real fast though for you guys is just to make a little wash for the crust. We're gonna sprinkle a little sugar on it and give it a nice little pretty presentation. Give me one sec. Okay, so I got a little bit of milk out and some finishing sugar. I'm gonna take my pastry brush and then just gently dab. Since we took the time to make the leaves, let's make the leaves really pretty, right? And even if you didn't make the leaves, you could still do this. If you'd rather do an egg wash, you could do an egg wash instead. All I'm doing is simply wetting it so that the sugar will stick. All right, so we got that done. The little bit of finishing sugar, we're just gonna sprinkle around the edge here. Just a little decorative tip. Nothing you have to do. And that looks pretty good. Okay. And as soon as the oven gets back up to temperature, like I said, about 10-15 minutes at 425, then we're gonna turn it down to 325 or 350, depending on how the crust is looking. And we can even cover the crust if necessary to prevent it from burning. And I'll show you that beautiful pie when we take it out of the oven. All right, it's time for the big reveal. The pumpkin pie is ready to come out of the oven. So you can see it's a little jiggly in the center. That's exactly how you want it. It smells delicious. Unfortunately, we have to let it sit for a little bit before we can cut it. But homemade pumpkin pie, we made the crust, we made the filling. Easy peasy. Hope you enjoy it. I know I'm going to. Bye for now.